The text, by virtue of implication, suggests the power of God to be restorative.
Bishop T.D. Jakes, a name synonymous with strength, faith, and leadership, shocked the world this week with an unexpected revelation about his health and well-being. For decades, Jakes had been a towering figure in the spiritual world, a man whose voice had guided millions through their darkest times. He had become a symbol of hope, strength, and unwavering faith. But this week, the powerful man who had always stood firm in his mission of ministry and empowerment revealed that even he too had been facing struggles that were hidden from the world. At 68 years old, after years of tirelessly serving his global congregation, Jakes shared that his health had been under immense pressure for some time. This announcement came not from a staged press release or a carefully crafted media event. Instead, it came straight from the heart of his family, in a raw, emotional message that stunned fans around the globe. For so long, Bishop Jakes had been the one offering hope, strength, and encouragement to others. Yet this time, the focus was on him and his family's vulnerability. This shift was one that no one expected, especially those who had witnessed his resilience firsthand. What followed was a cascade of emotions from both the Jakes family and the millions who had been touched by his ministry over the years. The man who led with power, now needing to rest. As a man who built his empire through faith, Bishop Jakes had always presented himself as a pillar of strength. His sermons were known for their dynamic delivery, each word imbued with the power to change lives. But over the past few years, those close to him had noticed a subtle shift. The energetic man who once dominated the stage now appeared quieter, slower, and more reflective. His children began posting on social media in a way that felt less celebratory and more serious. Their posts were laced with hints of something weighing heavily on their hearts, something they knew but hadn't yet shared with the world. And then the inevitable announcement came. It was shared by his own family, not from a corporate public relations team. It was personal and raw. It revealed that Bishop Jakes, despite his outward strength, had been facing immense challenges with his health. The man who had spent decades offering strength to others was now in need of strength himself. The announcement revealed that Bishop Jakes' health had been deteriorating in ways that had gone unnoticed by the public. Despite his boundless energy on the stage, the exhaustion and physical toll of constant travel, immense responsibility, and the emotional labor of leading a global ministry had begun to take its toll. The family shared their concerns, describing how they had seen him become increasingly weary despite his attempts to keep pushing through. The toll of leading a global ministry for years, Bishop Jakes had been the unshakable leader, guiding his ministry with conviction and authority. He was the voice that thousands, even millions, turned to in moments of crisis, grief, and joy. He was the beacon of hope that illuminated the lives of people who were struggling. But as with all human beings, the constant demands of leadership began to wear on him. His ministry was global, requiring him to travel extensively, speak at countless events, and always be available to those in need. As his family revealed, the emotional weight of the ministry was more than just exhausting. It was a heavy burden. Not just the work of ministry itself, but the emotional labor of carrying the hearts of countless people. Bishop Jakes was always there for others, comforting them, advising them, praying for them, but who was there for him? As his health began to decline, his family knew that it was time for him to step back and take care of himself, something that he had struggled to do for years. A family united in transparency and honesty. What made this revelation even more powerful was the honesty with which the Jakes family spoke. Instead of hiding behind a facade of perfection, they opened up to the world about their struggles. They showed that no family, no matter how successful or prominent, was immune to hardship. They shared that even the great Bishop Jakes, whose voice had been the strength of so many, was now in need of that same strength. The family didn't shy away from the truth. They embraced it. Sarah Jakes Roberts, Bishop Jakes' daughter, shared a deeply emotional account of the toll the ministry had taken on her father. She spoke not just as his daughter, but as someone who had witnessed his sacrifices firsthand. Sarah explained how, despite the family's encouragement, Bishop Jakes had found it difficult to step back from his calling. He was a man who loved people so deeply that he felt it was his responsibility to keep giving, even when it came at the expense of his own well-being. The power of love and vulnerability. The public reaction was overwhelming. Fans of Bishop Jakes flooded social media with messages of love, prayers, and gratitude. They shared their stories of how his words had changed their lives, helped them overcome personal struggles, and guided them through difficult times. For many, Bishop Jakes was more than just a spiritual leader. He was a father figure, a mentor, and a source of unwavering support. The announcement was a moment of shock, but it also brought about a wave of empathy and compassion. What made this moment even more profound was the way the Jakes family leaned on each other. This was not just a time of personal struggle, it was a time of collective strength. The Jakes family demonstrated what true unity looked like in the face of adversity. Instead of retreating into silence, they chose to be open about their struggles, showing the world that vulnerability could be a strength, not a weakness. A shift in leadership. Passing the torch. As the announcement continued to spread, it became clear that this was not a time of defeat for Bishop Jakes. Despite the news of his health struggles, the family made it clear that Bishop Jakes would not be stepping away from ministry altogether. Instead, he would be reducing his workload and allowing others within the ministry, including his children, to take on more responsibilities. This was not a loss, it was an evolution. Bishop Jakes had spent decades preparing the next generation of leaders, and now it was time for them to step up and continue his work. This shift was not a sign of weakness, but a sign of growth. For years, Bishop Jakes had been the leader, the pillar of strength, but now he was allowing his family and the broader ministry team to rise alongside him. He was making room for new voices, new perspectives, and new leadership to emerge, even while continuing his own ministry in a more balanced way. The hidden burdens of leadership. Bishop Jakes's health challenges revealed something that many people rarely consider: the emotional and physical toll of spiritual leadership. While many see pastors, bishops, and other spiritual leaders as figures of strength, authority, and wisdom, the reality is that these individuals often carry immense emotional burdens. They are the ones who counsel people through tragedy, guide them through moments of despair, and provide a shoulder to lean on during times of crisis. What many people don't realize is that this emotional labor comes at a cost. Bishop Jakes had spent decades serving others, carrying their pain and offering his strength. But as his family revealed, he had rarely allowed himself the space to heal or rest. For years, he had pushed through exhaustion, pain, and emotional fatigue because he felt it was his duty to help others. But as Sarah Jakes Roberts pointed out, sometimes true love means stepping back before something irreparable happens. Sometimes love means knowing when to stop, take a breath, and let others take on the burden for a while. A season of transformation. Bishop Jakes' decision to reduce his workload marked the beginning of a new season for both him and his ministry. This wasn't an end, it was a new chapter. While the world had come to know Bishop Jakes as the thunder in the room, this moment marked a quieter, more reflective period in his life. The announcement showed that even someone as powerful as Bishop Jakes could acknowledge their limits and make the necessary changes to ensure their own well-being. This shift in leadership was a reminder to all that strength is not about always pushing forward no matter the cost. Sometimes strength is about knowing when to rest, when to lean on others, and when to allow yourself the space to heal. This was a lesson in humility, resilience, and the importance of self-care. Lessons that many of his followers would carry with them as they navigated their own lives. A legacy of love, leadership, and growth. Bishop Jakes' story took an unexpected turn this week, but it was a turn that revealed not just his vulnerability, but also his wisdom. Through his struggles, his family showed the world that true strength isn't about never breaking. It's about knowing when to ask for help, when to slow down, and when to allow others to step up. The news of Bishop Jakes' health challenges and his decision to reduce his workload was a moment of profound reflection for both him and his followers. It reminded everyone that spiritual leaders are human too. They are not immune to the pressures of life, and they too need love, support, and healing. Fans around the world were not just shocked by the news, they were inspired by the way the Jakes family handled it. Their openness, their honesty, and their vulnerability created a deeper connection with their audience, one that went beyond the pulpit and into the very heart of humanity. In the end, this wasn't just a story about a man needing rest. It was about growth, transformation, and the power of love. It was about a family supporting each other through one of the most difficult times of their lives, and about a leader who was willing to let go in order to allow others to rise. And perhaps most importantly, it was a reminder that true strength lies not in the ability to carry everything alone, but in the courage to lean on others when the weight becomes too much.